So, beginning our second half tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have the amazing Barbara Hart. She is all the way from Maine. I'm not real good at this geography thing, but I think that's a long, long way up the East Coast. Maybe up by Canada, somewhere like that. I don't know. Now, Barbara is a bit mad. And a bit mad in the sense that her and her husband lived aboard their boat, La Luna, which is a J.O. Lee 47, for 18 years. And they didn't murder each other. Not even once. Now, in November of 2011, she sailed into St Augustine while going south and thought, that place ain't bad. And about 5 years later, after sailing all around the place, I think she went across the Atlantic twice. Once in reverse. Just 'cause. She decided, I'll relocate here. And she's been here ever since December 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce Barbara Hart. Take the wheel.
When Dad got this boat, I was afraid I'd fall overboard if I sat up on the seat. So for the first season or two, I sat on the floor, on a cushion, with my little hands up on the gunnels so I could be safe. Later, I could actually scramble over those seats to get to the Oreos, because Oreos, learned to fish a little bit, and drove the boat. Fast forward to 20 years, while listening to live music in Portland, I spilled my beer on a friend, a guy I'd met in the bar. For some reason, he thought the klutz, who liked good music, could learn to sail. And I could, he was right. But it took a while. You know, the boats I was on don't like to tip. He's like to tip a lot, and they call it heeling. On our third date, when Stu said, I sail and all of my friends sail, I said, I'm sure I could learn. So he went off and rented a boat for a week on the coast of Maine. I never left the cockpit, sure I'd fall overboard, and I never took the wheel, or the tiller at the time, because I was sure I'd tip the boat over. He thought I should know something or learn something to do on the boat, so he sent me to navigation classes, and I loved it. It proved to be a great thing. When dear friends of his gave us a honeymoon, a week on a well-provisioned Hinckley on the coast of Maine, and I was able to navigate on that trip. By that point, as you will note, I could go onto the bow, but I still would never take the wheel because I tipped the boat over. So that's how that went. And at one point, I said, we're on the wrong direction. We have to change course. And he said, we're going to have to jibe. So do you want to take the wheel or you want to jibe the main? And I said, I'll jibe the main, because if I take the wheel, I'll tip the boat over. This boat had only one jib winch, so he turned around and handled the winch. I handled the main, two blocked it, got no purchase, was dragged all the way across the boat, bumping one side of my body on all the things. When it was done, he said, that's great, because it didn't bang into the stays. I said, real people shouldn't have to do that. So, of course, we bought a boat, because that's what you do after that, right? And we sailed on weekends, on weekdays, after work. I learned how to sail, I learned how to steer, and actually took another woman out, a naive, non-sailing woman, to go sailing with me one day without anybody else. We did not tip the boat over, nobody fell overboard, and I was quite proud. Let's back up. Back when Stuart proposed to me, after asking the fateful words, he literally said, before you say yes, you have to know that someday I want to get a boat and take off and maybe sail around the world. I cried. And then I said yes to all of it. In 2002, my dad died. We lost 2 family members to cancer. And, of course, 9/11 happened. Like many, we reevaluated. And that proposal sounded pretty good at that point. So by March of 2002, we'd sold the house and moved aboard the Choi Lee. Living aboard year-round in Maine for 8 years. We loved the summers, and we did pretty well in the winters. Honestly, it wasn't really difficult. We worked on the boat, worked on the cruising kitty, went sailing as much as possible, and planned for taking off at some point. We finally headed south in October of 2010 with a forward cabin full of things to install. Stu's goal at that point was just to get far enough south to not freeze when he put everything together. We worked on the boat in Hampton, Virginia, and waited for a weather window to get around Cape Hatteras. We motored around that cape in a flat calm, no problem. But a day later, I was tested in a storm off Cape Fear, of course. Winds and lightning and water spouts, oh my. Stu was calm, I was terrified. I broke 2 fingers working on the jib, and of course the dinghy ended up standing in the rigging. I don't know how that happens. We left the U.S. from Miami on Christmas and spent the next 3 years in the Eastern Caribbean, sailing between the islands in 1- and 4-day passages and spending time on land-based adventures finally, like hiking for fun, hiking for fuel, seeing the sights, buying Pope parts. We met locals and cruisers from all over the world, repaired the dinghy, installed a new inverter, held and attended cockpit parties, oh yay, tried all sorts of new foods, and made the boat repairs. Our 2 mantras, it's all about the adventure and another boat project. A circumnavigation was out for us, so in 2014, we decided to cross the Atlantic to the Azores. If you can handle 4 days at sea, you can cross an ocean. I'm witness to that. We were known as the Americans who loved the Azores, visiting 7 of the 9 islands. And then we sailed to the Canaries, which are beautiful, but they are not my Azores. In December, we crossed back to the Eastern Caribbean, repaired the boat, and left in June to sail to Panama, the Gunayala region, where the pace is slower, the islands are surreal, and the snorkeling is fantastic. I had stood watch many hours alone in various conditions by that point, but that trip to Panama was a doozy. First, the sea gods lured us into making a stupid mistake. From St. Thomas, we were planned to sail downwind to the west in long jibes south of Hispaniola, that green zigzag line at the top. Heading southwest on the first day was a delight. Conditions held, we'd be able to shortcut and go straight down to Gunayala, that line. Yeah, it didn't matter. Didn't happen. Conditions didn't hold. Big, huge mistake. The winds and the waves increased, and we were pushed towards South American coastline. We battled it for 2 days. Waves washed over the deck. We couldn't cook. Everything got wet. The autopilot wouldn't work, and our 6-hour watches were reduced to 90 hard minutes of hand steering. Later, Stu said this was the most dangerous time at sea. We listened to Chris Parker, who told other cruisers that the conditions where we were horrendous. No kidding. We finally hove to, a sailing technique that lets you stop fighting the seas and drift with them, calm. And the current took us 2 to 3 knots north. Magic. That girl, who had been scared of boating in a small boat, had crossed the Atlantic twice and worked with her captain to keep La Luna safe in horrendous conditions. After a few days hove to, the wind shifted. I took the helm and steered La Luna into 25-foot seas while Stu set the sails, and I remained on the helm from my full watch.